Good morning, KMMA Tribe. Grandmaster Castillo coming to you live from KMMA headquarters in beautiful Leeds, Florida. Hey, I have so many things to be grateful for today. I'm grateful for another great day at KMMA. But today I want to talk specifically about my new book. It's not a new book to me, honestly. Like this book was incredibly important to me in my formative years of leadership. But I did just get my 10th anniversary edition, revised and updated of the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And this is the book that we're going to be teaching from for the next 21 weeks at KMMA. Those of you that know, if you're getting this and you are in my KMMA Black Belt Leadership Program, you know how much more we do than just teach self-defense or fitness. And even though we do really well at those things, as I say often, we are a leadership development academy that also happens to teach the most practical self-defense in the world. But leadership is incredibly powerful and important. It's funny because it's a word that is thrown around in such a loose way. Most people don't actually even understand what it means. So here's what I'm going to say. This book is an important one as pertains to true leadership, becoming effective through leadership. Today we're going to talk about the first of the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, which is the law of the lid, which basically says that you can only go so far as your leadership, particularly if you're trying to lead an organization. But what I want to say about it before that in general is that, the first thing is just understanding what an important study leadership is. It's so funny because some people treat it as though it's something for kids, almost ironically, while of course the opposite is true. However, I will say it is an amazing blessing and opportunity for these kids that are coming up through here learning this stuff. Obviously, when they grow into black belt leaders and they go into the world already equipped with all of the leadership knowledge and effectiveness, it just prepares them for success for anything they're going to go out and do in the world. So, no further ado, I'm going to begin with the, chapter 1 of the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell, in case you want to get it yourself and read along, but is on the law of the lid. And the law of the lid basically says that leadership ability determines a person's level of effectiveness. And we'll start with a story that he tells in the book, because it's a story about, goes back to the 30s. And in the 30s, these brothers, they opened this revolutionary restaurant that was very, very different from the other restaurants at the time. It was one of the first fast food restaurants, like a drive-in type of restaurant, and they had achieved amazing success by the 50s. In fact, in the early 50s, they had so much success that it says that people started writing them and visiting them from all over the country to learn more about their methods. At one point, they received as many 300 calls and letters per month, and it was because they had a successful restaurant. They had hit, by the mid 50s, they had hit annual revenue of $350,000 and would split profits of $100,000 a year. And while that doesn't sound like crazy today, that was a lot of money back in the 50s. So they were like in the town's financial elite with those numbers. And so people wanted to find out how they were doing it in their little restaurant. But then here's what happened next. That led them to the idea of marketing the McDonald's concept. The idea of franchising restaurants wasn't new. It had been around for several decades. To the McDonald brothers, it seemed like a way to make money without having to open another restaurant themselves. In 1952, they got started, but their effort was a dismal failure. The reason was simple. They lacked the leadership necessary to make a larger enterprise effective. Dick and Maurice were good single restaurant owners. They understood how to run a business, make their systems efficient, cut costs, and increase process. They were efficient managers, but they were not leaders. And so, basically what had happened was the McDonald's brothers, the creators of what is today McDonald's, the most successful marketing and also to some degree food restaurant chain in the world, they hit the law of the lid. They lacked the leadership to create the organization that we see today. So then what happened? Well, a leader came along a gentleman named, and a lot of you already know this story, I'm sure, that are listening to this, but a gentleman named Ray Kroc came along. And Ray Kroc had actually, ironically, he had been a salesman that had delivered a certain type of machinery to the McDonald brothers. It was, I think, a shake machine. Anyway, the point of the story is that he was familiar with the operation already. And so he knew McDonald's. The restaurant was one of his best customers. And as soon as he visited the store, he had a vision for its potential. So leadership, quality, one there. Like clue number one, Ray Kroc was a leader, was he had a vision. In his mind, he could see the restaurant going nationwide in hundreds of markets. He soon struck a deal with Dicker Maurice, and in 1955, he formed McDonald's Systems, Inc., later called the McDonald's Corporation. Kroc immediately bought the rights to a franchise so that he could use it as a model and prototype. He would use it to sell other franchises. You see already the taking action on it, and other leadership qualities here. Like he invested, he bought the franchise. He understood the importance of leading first. Then he began to assemble a team and build an organization. More clues that Kroc was a leader. He understood the importance of assembling a great team, building an organization to make McDonald's a nationwide entity. He recruited and hired the sharpest people he could find. And his team grew in size and ability. His people developed additional recruits with leadership skill. In the early years, Kroc sacrificed a lot. Ding, ding, ding. Another leadership principle, the law of sacrifice. Though he was in his mid-50s, he worked long hours just as he had when he first started in business 30 years earlier. He eliminated many frills at home, including his country club membership, which he later said added 10 strokes to his golf game. During his first 8 years with McDonald's, he took no salary. Ding, ding, ding. Not only that, but he personally borrowed money from the bank and against his life insurance to help cover the salaries of a few key leaders that he wanted on the team. His sacrifice and his leadership paid off. In 1961, for the sum of $2.7 million, Kroc bought the exclusive rights to McDonald's from the brothers, and he proceeded to turn it into an American institution and global entity. The lid in the life and leadership of Ray Kroc was obviously much higher than that of his predecessors. And that's the kind of power that comes with this first leadership principle, the law of the lid, that we can only be as effective as the level of our leadership. So that is to say, he uses an illustration in the book where there's the lower line, of a graph, of a chart. The lower line, he says success determination, right? Like, so it's your drive and how, work ethic and your success motivation and knowledge, and that is one level. But you honestly could put on there anything, right? Because you could also put the stuff that you're good at. Like for me, it would be being a great teacher, being a good writer, a good communicator, good salesman, good marketer. Like, so there's all these individual skills that could go on that line. And you could be varying degrees of greatness in each of those. The point of the story is that if the other line that goes up this way is leadership, you can only be as effective as that graph, right? So if my teacher was 8, but my leadership was 3, that's as high as I could go. You could work really, really hard to go a little higher on the leadership, or you could raise the leadership. On the teaching or whatever it is that you do, right? You can get better at the thing that you do. You can get more motivated. You can work harder. You can do all that stuff. But if you raise the leadership, it has a multiplicative effect. That's really the message of the law of the lid, is that as our leadership gets better, everything gets better. And sometimes, like with my son who does homeschool dojo school with me, my youngest son, and he'll say, that thing you have me read doesn't really apply to me. I'm not a businessman. It applies to everyone. Because here's the deal. Everybody is a leader of something. Yes, I happen to be the leader of Krav Maga martial arts and have the awesome honor and privilege and blessing of sewing into hundreds of students and many great leaders, black belt leaders, my team and sensei staff, and it's awesome. But I also have a family that I lead, and I'm a leader in other places, and And you do too. That's the point of the story, is you have at least your family that you have to be a leader in. You might have church or civic organizations, or you might be you might be a school teacher. You might be a teacher in some other way. You are a leader of the people, right? Like everybody that accepts it has some level of leadership. And it's a critically important thing. The first of the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, and I'll close this with this. John Maxwell says in the introduction, and I would agree with him, it's not any one thing, you need all of them. Tells a great story about that. Says he was at a seminar and a particularly enthusiastic college student came up to him and said, okay, I understand what you've been talking about today, but I'm going to put you on the spot. What's the one thing, the one most important thing that I need to know about leadership? John Maxwell looked at him seriously and he said, the one thing you absolutely must learn about leadership is that there isn't only one thing. Make it a great day.